Getting Out by Going In is a nonprofit organization. It's one that I founded a long time ago, 2002, when I started my work inside of prisons and jails. Getting Out by Going In has an acronym. It's called GOGI. And I'm going to be reading from the GOGI book. It's called the GOGI Life Tools mini book. And we're going to go through each of the chapters, and I'm going to add a little commentary to each of them. So, welcome to the wonderful world of GOGI, and let's start reading the GOGI Life Tools mini book. This book is dedicated to those who believe prison walls limit internal freedom, and to all those who prove them wrong. Getting Out by Going In, Introduction. Getting Out by Going In, GOGI, is a nonprofit organization that supports the expansion of the GOGI community. That, however, was not how we began, nor is it the limit of our destiny. I remember the first time a prisoner asked, "You mean to get out of prison, I need to go inside for the answers?" Getting Out by Going In began as an exploration into solutions for the prisons we create in our own minds. GOGI evolved from a formal program to a community, and now living the GOGI way and GOGI for life seem to be in the daily vernacular of many individuals who were once hopeless and suffered in despair. Now, armed with their GOGI Life Tools, these individuals find their purpose as valued members of society, no longer a deficit, but rather a great benefit to those who witness their lasting changes. Every type of human individual is represented and accepted within the GOGI community. GOGI is all-inclusive. Those who have found success in using the GOGI Life Tools lead GOGI meetings where like-minded individuals can support each other in a solution to the problems that mistakenly seem too big to overcome. They are an example of service and volunteerism. Fueling a movement to replace the old, worn prison culture might have seemed impossible, but one prisoner with the vision of GOGI expanded into 2. It continued to expand into 4, then 14, then 40. Then the explosive viral nature of GOGI took on a life of its own. Now it would be impossible to count the number of individuals choosing to become the solution and model their lives the GOGI way. This book can be trusted and relied upon as a solid support for the GOGI culture. The heart and soul of this book is consistent with the tens of thousands of individuals who helped form its message. If you want training and certification options for GOGI study beyond the contents of this book, published formal coursework, e-learning options, and supplementary resources, they are all available by writing to GOGI or online at www.gettingoutbygoingin.org. Living the GOGI way seems to be possible for all of us, and when we choose to move beyond our prisons, we find the solution that was within us all along. With love, Coach Taylor, GOGI founder and volunteer. Yeah, I wrote that introduction. Still holds true today. But let's go ahead and start with Chapter 1, Getting Out by Going In, GOGI's Humble Beginnings. A note from the founder of GOGI, GOGI Coach Taylor. That's me. Welcome to the wonderful world of GOGI. What is GOGI, you may ask? In the early 2000s, I was asking the same question. Actually, my question arose out of a personal dilemma, a feeling of being trapped, stuck, and unable to find lasting joy. As a psychology student on the tour of a prison, I was confused by how familiar the place appeared. The prison looked like how I felt. Motivated to investigate why this place called prison looked so familiar to my internal life experience, my volunteerism with prisoners began. I became intensely curious about this thing called freedom and why some of the prisoners seemed to have more of it than I felt I had experienced as a free person. Over the subsequent 20 years, tens of thousands of prisoners shared their perspective of the experience of freedom, and they eagerly shared it with me. They shared their opinions on how to get some of it. Conversations with prisoners. Through conversations with prisoners emerged the discussion that to get out of prison, we must turn inward for the answers. Getting out by going in, or GOGI, as it is affectionately called, was the name given to the organization by prisoners. The words you read now are parts and pieces of tens of thousands of conversations. They are thoughts and reflections written down after large gym-filled seminars as well as small chapel-cramped discussions. These conversations were held in hundreds of different prisons across the United States. They represent the highlights and lowlights gathered along my personal and oftentimes painful journey to the place of internal freedom that I now enjoy. From the heart and soul. These words come to you from the heart and soul of the world's most harm-causing and often the most harmed individuals on our planets as they struggled to earn redemption and freedom. These words come to you from the heart and soul of the world's most harm-causing and oftentimes the most harmed individuals on our planet as they struggle to earn redemption and freedom. Since 2002, witnessing the intense journey of the GOGI students occupied much of my life. In a very real way, we were on this journey together. As a result of our shared journey and my willingness to listen, and most importantly, my willingness to truly hear the students, I found a key. This key, which led to my internal freedom, emerged through my use of the GOGI Life Tools. While life's circumstance and my own choices never placed me in the custody of a government department, the prison I experienced in my daily life since an early age seemed inescapable. No one saw my prison. No one understood my prison. I was certain no one felt as I felt, and I truly believe that no one, not even I, could help. In my life, I believed freedom was simply not to be mine. Believing I was simply born to suffer, I had all but given up until that day of the prison tour when I saw what I was feeling played out before me in the form of razor wire block walls and gun-toting guards. When I was brave enough, or maybe desperate enough, to look within myself for the answers, and when I was willing to sit with the suffering individuals among us long enough to explore the whys of it all, change happened. The sense of freedom slowly snuck up on me, and the doors to a life of satisfaction, joy, and contentment were opened. GOGI is the journey of getting out of our own prison by going inward for the answers. And I will be forever grateful to the prisoners who were brave or desperate enough to join me on the journey. Please excuse this book. Please excuse this book for its redundancy. Somehow on my own journey, I needed these concepts repeated to me a million different ways by thousands of different prisoners before they sunk in long enough to become a habit and eventually be integrated into the very fiber of my own life. Within the first 5 years of volunteering to work with prisoners, I caught a glimpse of what internal freedom might feel like. By then, I had logged more than 10,000 volunteer hours, read every self-help book on any bookshelf, completed thousands of courses on psychology, and asked thousands of questions of prisoners. It was in the repetition, including the reading, listening, speaking of the same simple concepts over and over again, that I finally made freedom my reality. I've been volunteering to work with prisoners ever since because I believe in the GOGI Life Tools and I have confidence in all those who use them. Let me be completely honest with you. This book is not clever. The concepts are not earth-shattering. In fact, you won't find anything new that has not been written or spoken about 1,000,000 times before. What you will find is the same old worn-out messages you have undoubtedly heard throughout your life. The only difference may be that the GOGI Life Tools and the message of GOGI is delivered with a sincerity that comes from suffering, both mine and that of physical prisoners who joined me in the exploration. Remember, before you rush to judgment, I warned you multiple times that there is nothing profound about the GOGI Life Tools. The GOGI Life Tools are time-proven aids to help you in life, but they are not new, they are not secret, they are not magic, they are not a religion, nor are they a club or a cult. The GOGI Life Tools are not even special. What are the GOGI Life Tools? If they are not these things, then what are the GOGI Life Tools? Simply put, the GOGI Life Tools are easy concepts delivered in an even easier format that seem to work for a majority of individuals who give them a try. They are free, and they are for everyone. In my own experience, I found my struggles were not relieved with complex concepts and heavy academic study. My struggles were not aided by scientific proof or well-meaning how-to books. My struggles seemed far too heavy for more heavy stuff to be added to my load. Why wasn't life easier, I wondered. I needed to feel like I had control. I wanted to be the boss of my life. When a prisoner in one of the first volunteer groups commented that I was suggesting to him that he could be the boss of his brain, the first GOGI Life Tool was created. Boss of my brain, and all the subsequent GOGI Life Tools emerged from conversations with the incarcerated. The concept that I could be the boss of anything empowered me to take charge of what was going on between my two ears. Boss of my brain was added to my personal toolbox for change. With these words, a prisoner had synthesized 10 minutes of my talking about the brain's functions, the neurons, and the patterns of behavior into a tool for freedom. He simply chopped away at all the unnecessary and delivered up the perfect tool for the job. They called it Boss of My Brain. Let's get to your biggest concern, which is probably you and your life. Let's get started on the path of possibly providing you with a way to shorten your suffering, expedite your freedom, and support you in your quest for a life filled with satisfaction, contentment, purpose, and meaning. In this book, you will learn about GOGI and the GOGI Life Tools. For most individuals, it is important to know all of the tools in the toolbox. For others, just having mastery of one tool is the winning ticket. There is no right and no wrong way to study the GOGI Life Tools. They are simply tools for any individual. Your skill in using them, one or all of the tools, is entirely yours to decide. Success will result from your level of commitment and investment. Throughout the pages of this book, you are provided with basic answers to many questions asked by inquisitive minds. Hopefully, as you read, the information provided will resolve questions you may have or questions that emerge. If some of the information in this book does not apply to you, please muscle forward through the material until that morsel of wisdom or encouragement you desire makes itself known. Please know you are appreciated for investing your time in these words. My hope is that the value of your time and money exceeds your greatest expectation, and you come to realize how simple the experience of freedom can become when we choose to get out by going in. Could GOGI be your solution? There were times in my life when I felt trapped, stuck, and locked into what seemed to be a prison for which I had no key. The hopelessness I felt in my own life reverberated into my daily choices, which further embedded me into a life over which I had no control. As I have previously shared, as a psychology student on a tour of a prison, I was struck by how familiar the prison yard looked. In an odd and somewhat indescribable way, There was a sense of familiarity in the drab buildings, the impenetrable walls, and the guards with guns. The prison looked like how I felt inside. I, too, felt as if my life was a prison from which there was no escape. On that day, I became committed to the exploration of freedom. What was freedom? How did it feel? And most importantly, how could I get some of it? For the answers, I turned toward those wearing prison uniforms, as no one on the outside seemed to provide any acceptable answer for the sense of despair, worthlessness, and hopelessness I experienced in my everyday life. Tiny doses of freedom. More than 20 years later, I am relieved to share with you that along the journey as a volunteer working with prisoners, my freedom was gained in sometimes imperceivable increments. It almost seemed as if tiny doses of freedom were released into my life experience through my deliberate choices, each decision adding to the ocean of possibilities which became the life I now enjoy. This freedom I created in my life was not immediate, nor was it because someone other than me gave me permission to be free. Rather, I got out of my prison by going inward for the answers. The prisoners taught me that my freedom was mine to plant, nurture, and grow within. In doing so, over much time, I experienced an uncommon level of internal freedom that could not be negatively impacted by circumstance or situation. The internal freedom available to me could not and would not be contained, but only if I remained deliberate and dedicated to my quest for freedom. In my heart, I feel it is now time for the journey of getting out by going in to be shared with society. Why now? Of this I am certain. Many prisoners seem to be more free than those who live outside of a physical prison. The message. The message of this book is that you are fully capable of creating internal freedom for yourself. This message is offered as a gift from tens of thousands of prisoners who helped create, develop, and now share the GOGI Life Tools. These GOGI Life Tools are now available to you as a gift from those with prison walls of regret, remorse, addiction, gangs, and criminal lifestyles that were seemingly impossible to reconcile. Know that prisoners come in all forms and are not only for those who break the rules. Sometimes internal prisons are more difficult to perceive as anything less than a life sentence. This book shares the knowledge from the journey of students of GOGI and is intended for all people, even for free people. It is a gift from prisoners who help create this information I can now offer. The hope of all GOGI students is that the physically free people find internal freedom without the painful journey that defined their own lives behind bars. The GOGI Life Tools shared in this book have been created by some of the most harmful and the most harmed people in our society. If these GOGI Life Tools help many of them evolve into providing solutions for their communities, wouldn't it stand to reason that these GOGI Life Tools may help you too? How can this book help you? This book can help you if you have tried. If you've tried other methods for change, but none of them seem to last, this book might provide a lasting nudge in the right direction. Are tired. If you are tired of trying, you simply want change and you are willing to do just about anything to get a different outcome, this book might give you a solid route. Are motivated. If you are motivated for change but have not yet found that spark of excitement in the same old methods, this book might light that fire. Are curious. If you enjoy expanding your knowledge about all sorts of things, you may find this book intriguing. Are helpful. If you are helpful to others on the journey of change, it's likely you will find the information in this book supportive of your efforts. Are in any other state of flux. If you are in between where you were and where you want to be, then this book might help you create more distance from the unwanted. Here's what you will find. In this book, you will be introduced to getting out by going in, GOGI, as well as how it evolved as a lifestyle. You will have the ability to learn about the GOGI Life Tool calendar, the GOGI meetings, and the specific of 4 sets of tools, as well as instructions for each of the tools. The goal of this book is to provide you with the tools you can use to increase your positive decision-making and maximize your life experience. With a little luck, you will feel inspired to share what you learned with others. That is what we call living the GOGI way. I hope you liked Chapter 1. We're going to move on to Chapter 2 pretty soon. But let me give you a little commentary. It seems like somebody else's life before I started studying GOGI. Well, true, it was way back in the 2002, and as I'm reading this, it's 2025, so it really may as well have been another life. But I suffered so greatly, and now I can see when people are suffering, and it is so simple to just do a perceptual shift with tiny little tools. And that is what GOGI is all about, simple little tools to make perceptual shifts and decision-making shifts in our lives that offer massive, massive, big changes. I live the GOGI way. I use the GOGI Life Tools. And I welcome you to the wonderful world of GOGI. Chapter 2. What are the GOGI Life Tools? The more you read about the study of the GOGI Life Tools, the more you may find them helpful in every decision you make from this day forward. For this reason, information about the GOGI Life Tools is repeated in many different ways, just to make sure you have maximum opportunity to put them to good use. The question you can ask yourself is, how might I make more positive decisions in my life? The GOGI Life Tools are based on common and well-known psychological and behavioral techniques. There is nothing new about the tools, but somehow the simple description of the tools makes them easier to remember and apply. Simplifying otherwise complex strategies has been the most important aspect of GOGI's positive decision-making tools. It is the foundation of GOGI's incredible success in providing anyone who is interested with a viable option for lasting change. GOGI is keeping it simple. Simplicity is sometimes the most overlooked value in our society. Individuals and societies make the mistake of thinking that lasting change needs to be complex, scientific, and rigorously proven. GOGI, however, is successful because the tools are based on nothing more than the fact that they are simple and they work. If that is a bit too simple, then the growing number of success stories may sway the naysayer's mind. We keep it simple and let practice over time prove the value of living the GOGI way. GOGI is a simple resource. Those of us who study the GOGI Life Tools know the lasting power of any change is dependent upon the individual's ability and commitment to utilizing every possible resource to support that change. The GOGI Life Tools just happen to be a simple and easy-to-apply resource. While often understated, simple is sometimes the most powerful choice you can make. Yes, the GOGI Life Tools are simple by design. Change can be simple too when you increase your ability to make positive decisions. You can do this through your use of the GOGI Life Tools. If more people would appreciate living a simple life, using simple tools, and keeping their mind uncluttered, our prisons and jails, as well as our pharmacies and our doctors' offices, would have vacancy signs. The GOGI Life Tools. What are the GOGI Life Tools? The GOGI Life Tools are simple decision-making strategies anyone can use to help them create the positive life they desire. The tools are listed below. Boss of my brain, belly breathing, 5-second light switch. Positive thoughts, positive words, positive actions. Claim responsibility, let go, forgive. What if? Reality check. Ultimate freedom. Why GOGI Life Tools? The GOGI Life Tools provide an easy way for any individual to get or remain on course for creating an optimal life. The GOGI Life Tools were developed through incorporating effective and proven psychological strategies for behavioral change into a simplified methodology. These modalities for change were fused with human excellence practices gleaned from science, religion, and cultures from across the globe. What are the sets of tools? The GOGI Life Tools are divided into 4 sets of tools. This makes them easy to remember, as each set has a specific function. The 4 sets are tools of the body, tools of choice, tools of moving forward, tools of creation. Tools of the body. Boss of my brain is part of the set of tools called tools of the body. This was the first tool created by students of GOGI as they explored ways to make certain they remained on track with the kind of life they wanted. By identifying the smart part, emotional part, and the old habit parts of their brain, they simply simplified the process of controlling how the brain operates. When you use this tool frequently enough, you will begin to experience the power that comes with practice. Boss of my brain solves the problem of not being taught by example or by education that you and only you are the owner of the business of your brain. No one else is living your exact life, and with Boss of my brain, you can run the best business of your life just like a good boss runs a good company. Belly breathing. Belly breathing is part of the set of tools called tools of the body and was created when a group of students of GOGI tried to explain to a young student how to get out of the loop of automatic thinking. In a circle group, the students of GOGI asked the youngster to lay on the ground and look up at the ceiling until his belly began to move with every breath. This simple trick you can try every night when you lay down to sleep. Just lay on your back until your belly starts to move. You don't need to even think about breathing with your belly moving because it will happen on its own. When your belly begins to move, you are belly breathing. When you notice you are using your tool belly breathing while you're lying down, you can focus on doing it even when you are standing up. 5-second light switch is also part of the set of tools called tools of the body, and was created when a group of students of GOGI wanted to find a way to get their actions not to be so reactive or automatic. Wanting to find a simple way to stop discussions and choices that were lightning fast and seemed out of control, they created the ability to flip the switch. This tool has you redirect any thoughts to a positive action within 5 seconds. When you have a positive action already chosen, it is easier to flip that 5-second light switch and make sure you don't make the same mistakes from the past. Flip the switch to shine a positive light and go in that direction with confidence. Tools of choice. Positive thoughts is part of the set of tools called tools of choice and was created when a group of GOGI girls were in a small jail housing module. They had very little ability to get away from each other for much needed alone time. Being in a situation where alone time was not possible, they created this tool to build their ability to withstand all sorts of peer pressure, bad attitudes, general negativity, and drug or alcohol addiction. Being in a very difficult situation, they decided that rather than give up and give in, they would become even more committed to living positive lives. You can do this too with positive thoughts. When negativity creeps into your head, you can banish it forever with your tool, positive thoughts. Positive words is part of the set of tools called Tools of Choice and was created by students of GOGI when they realized it wasn't enough to use positive thoughts. They quickly realized that if their thoughts remained in their head, they were vulnerable to outside influence. When they used their positive words, they built an additional shield of positive protection to keep from being negatively impacted by outside circumstances. When they used positive words, they were less inclined to become victims of negative circumstances. You can use your positive words as your biggest weapon to fend off attackers of your peace of mind and positive life. Positive actions is part of the set of tools called Tools of Choice. This tool was the obvious tool emerging from the other tools of choice. This is because the students of GOGI realized it was possible to shield themselves from negative influence by using positive thoughts and increase their protection with positive words. But when they used positive actions, they drove away people, places, and things that did not positively support what they wanted. With practice, you can use positive actions to prove to yourself and others that it is possible to change the course of your life and be happy, positive, sober, sane, and successful. Tools of moving forward. Claim responsibility is part of the set of tools called Tools of Moving Forward. This tool is not about claiming responsibility for the past. Instead, the tool Claim Responsibility is about today and tomorrow. When you use this tool, you realize that how you respond and react to anyone or anything is under your direct command. No one can make you angry. It is you who gets to choose if you will let others anger you. No one can make you violent. It is you who gets to choose if you will let others bring out violence in your behavior. No one can make you drink or use drugs. It is you who gets to choose if you put yourself in a position where saying no is a challenge. When you use Claim Responsibility, you move forward toward the life you may never have thought possible. Let Go is part of the set of tools called Tools of Moving Forward and was created for people who have a tendency to carry the heavy load of their past with them into the present and into the future. By putting negative thoughts about people, places, and things in your hand and giving them the hand squash toss, you will find there is more room in your head and in your heart for positive life choices. To actually be a better person, you move forward beyond the heavy darkness intruding your decisions today. Regret is essential, but wallowing in regret so long that it makes for other poor decisions is just not smart. Giving it the hand, squash, toss, and commit to using Let Go so you can move forward and make the most positive choices. Forgive is part of the set of tools called Tools of Moving Forward. In truth, this is the GOGI safety tool. This tool gives you permission to get a safe distance from harmful people, places, and things. When you feel you're under attack or in danger, you likely become selfish and uncaring. As a safety tool, Forgive has you ask, what do I need to do to get a safe distance from harm? In asking that question, you put yourself in a position to be a benefit to yourself and to your family and to your friends and to your community. When you are a safe distance from harm, you will undoubtedly begin to give back to others. For you to give, you must be safe from harm. Get safe, then give back with your handy tool, Forgive. Tools of Creation. What If is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool lets you create new outcomes for yourself by eliminating you from life's victim's role and putting you in charge of your decision. You can give everything the what if all day, every day, so you can see where your choices are leading you. What if you signed up for a class? What if you didn't? What if you made that phone call? What if you didn't? What if you reached out to someone in need? What if you didn't? When you what if all your choices, you will find that most of your choices today are exactly the same as your choices yesterday. How are you expecting a different outcome with the same choices? With this tool, you can give all thoughts, words, and actions the what if and create something different from the past. Reality Check is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool is your permission to be a flawed human, but it does not give you permission to remain in a flawed state. 10 steps forward and 2 steps back is still 8 steps ahead. Your 2 steps back do not mean you are a failure. What they mean when you use Reality Check is that you acknowledge you really messed up, but you get right back on track by making your very next decision the most positive decision possible. With Reality Check, you understand that you are not perfect, but you keep moving forward towards positive growth with your next thought, word, and action. Your mistakes do not define you. What defines you is how you get back on track once mistakes are made. Reality Check lets you course correct quickly. Ultimate Freedom is part of the set of tools called Tools of Creation. This tool is the least obvious of the tools because it is used to create a way of moving through your day and not necessarily a tool you pull out when something breaks down. When you use your tool, Ultimate Freedom, you make decisions that help you be of service. You do this by being positive. That is a service to others. You do this by being helpful. That is a service to others. You do this by being safe distance from harm. That is a service to others. When you use Ultimate Freedom, you realize that you are important as a walking and talking potential solution to all problems. As a walking and talking solution, you are living a life of service. That is the ultimate use of the tool, Ultimate Freedom. The GOGI Life Tool Calendar. How are the GOGI Life Tools studied? Study of the GOGI Life Tools is most often coordinated with the GOGI Life Tool Calendar of Study. Of course, the tools can be used on their own, in their sets, or in any configuration that helps sustain positive decision-making and lasting change. The calendar, however, serves to unite all communities into a global community of positive individuals. What is the GOGI Life Tool Calendar? According to the GOGI Life Tool Calendar, each week of study begins on Monday. The first week of each month begins that month's study. Each week of the month is assigned a tool to be studied during that week. You will see that there are 4 tools studied each month. When there is a 5th Monday of the month, we usually hold a tool review meeting or a guest speaker meeting. The suggestion of the calendar was a result of a conversation I had with a man who was housed in Pelican Bay State Prison in the maximum security unit. He was housed in an area where there were no classes and no groups. When he asked me which tool the students were studying, he told me he didn't want to study alone. The GOGI Life Tool Calendar was created so that no one will ever feel alone in their GOGI studies. Not ever again. When you study on calendar, you study the GOGI Life Tools in very good company. I'm going to read you a true story now. Coach Al, a certified GOGI coach since 2019, who was released October 9th, 2020. This is Coach Al. When I first went before the parole board in June of 2020, one of the first questions they asked was, "What is that GOGI stuff about?" I explained that GOGI offers tools of positive decision-making and that I use Boss of My Brain as my main tool. I explained how the front part of our brain is the smart part, the middle part is the emotional part, and the back of the brain is the old habit part. I told them that I always consider which part I want in charge of making my decisions, and I want to make decisions with the smart part of my brain. I continued to tell them that I was a certified GOGI coach and I wanted everybody to have the GOGI Life Tools. I could tell light bulbs were going off in their heads as I shared my story. My hearing was only 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is a very short time for a validated gang member and a shot caller known for causing havoc in every prison he went to. After that question, they pretty much walked through the rest of the hearing. One thing they told me once they announced that they had found me suitable was the fact that people come into hearings who know all the steps of AA, NA, CGA, but when asked how to explain the thought process, they're stumped. They can't explain the process of decision-making. They congratulated me on my ability to describe in detail the decision-making process. Off the record, one of the commissioners said that he knew I was suitable in the first 5 minutes when I spoke about my GOGI Life Tools. I recommend that everybody does GOGI, even children and families. The tools are relatable and helpful for daily decisions. I have a wife and a son and a baby on the way. You can bet they will be learning the GOGI Life Tools. I want to read a testimonial from a GOGI coach. This is Coach James. For me, it all starts with being on the GOGI Life Tool calendar. When I am on the calendar, I'm able to focus on that tool. When something internally or externally triggers me, no matter the stressor, I reach for that tool of the week first. And I know I am not alone in my GOGI studies. In this application, I can combine tools that give me a path to positivity. Oh, and here, testimonial from a GOGI coach. Here's my testimonial. Okay, let me read it. GOGI Coach Taylor. The GOGI Life Tool calendar was created because one man alone in an isolated prison cell asked me which tool the rest of the world was studying that week. I took this question to a group of GOGI leaders, and they came up with the GOGI Life Tool calendar. We did not want anyone to ever feel alone when they studied their GOGI Life Tools. Regardless of where you are never, ever alone when you rely on the GOGI Life Tool calendar as your study guide. You can rest assured that out there somewhere, there are groups of people practicing the same GOGI Life Tool as you. This, I believe, is GOGI's greatest gift to the world, a culture that unites us all. So that's the end of that chapter. Yeah, I remember every single tool. I remember every single individual who helped create it, every single situation. I remember the smell of the jail cells, that musty, dank smell of dirty laundry. I remember the prison doors slamming behind me. I remember Terminal Island Federal Prison and the small group of 6 men that gathered every Wednesday at 12 o'clock to meet with me, and how that group grew to be up to 100 people meeting every week to explore freedom. GOGI is much more than just a set of life tools. It's the voice of individuals who have figured it out. They figured out the simplicity of internal freedom. Thanks. I appreciate your time. It feels good to share a little bit of my 25 years behind bars. Okay, this is the GOGI mini book. I'm reading from chapter 3 with my own little bits of commentary interspersed. Chapter 3, The Tools of the Body, Boss of My Brain, Belly Breathing, 5-second light switch. The tools in this section are the tools of the body. They are designed to help you master decisions, breathing, and critical thinking. If you make a practice of using these tools, you will find yourself making positive decisions more often. The tools of the body empower you to control your human body's decision-making process. Tools of the body let you formulate positive decisions as a result of having control over your body's reactions to challenges. The tools in this set help you learn how much power you have over your body and its seemingly automatic operation. The biggest challenge in applying these tools as an adult could be that you didn't learn them as a child. Your decisions of the past probably would have been different had you learned the GOGI Life Tools. But with Boss of My Brain, Belly Breathing, and 5-second light switch, you can take control of your choices at any age. In this section, you will explore the most frequently used set of tools and, coincidentally, the first set of tools created by the first students of GOGI. The tools of the body enable the individual a level of mastery of the mind, breathing, and redirecting attention. In my own life, these tools help me build a solid foundation from which all other positive decision-making tools could be practiced. For me, tools of the body placed the point of control directly in my hands. It became impossible for me to play the victim or blame anyone else for the outcomes of my decisions. Ultimately, my responses and my reactions became my own creation. Boss of my brain. When I learned Boss of my brain, I realized that sadness, depression, and anxiety could be perceived as choices, just like appreciation, hope, and gratitude. I realized that my life experience was mine to create, and Boss of my brain was an awesome tool to help me create the life I enjoy. That is when the use of this tool became second nature, simply because of the relief I experienced by using the tool regularly. I wanted more joy and less pain in my life, and Boss of my brain helped me get closer to those goals. Belly breathing. Belly breathing provides me with a powerful resource of energy, and I am returned to a state of deliberate living rather than reactionary responses. When I began to utilize belly breathing, my life opened up not only to deliberate living, but living with appreciation. When I let challenges slide by me with little disruption to my focus on creating a positive life. 5-second light switch. Fortified with my GOGI Life Tool 5-second light switch, there is nothing that stays in my way long enough to take me off my intended outcome. At any moment, I can flip the switch and shine a light on any situation. This is because I am now in charge of how long I permit a thought to linger. If I am in some way unhappy, then it is only me who can choose to flip the switch. My brain can then neurologically move that thought to a more productive one. Using the tools of the body is a skill that can be mastered in childhood. A child who learns these tools before the age of 8 is well poised to navigate the next phase of development with the grace and ease we all wish represented our childhoods. From birth to nearly 8 years of age, children are learning to master their bodies, learning to make decisions and choices that have outcomes from which they benefit or suffer. Tools of the body empower children to realize they have significant control over their life, even while dependent upon their caregivers. One of my fondest GOGI memories is of that day we spent in Compton, California, at a middle school with other volunteer psychology students who were studying GOGI. The principal of the school permitted the GOGI volunteers to work with a small group of kids to see what they thought about the GOGI Life Tools. The teachers were instructed to send one student from each class to meet with GOGI. As luck would have it, we were assigned the students the teachers wanted out of their classrooms due to their disruptive nature and their personalities. Well, that was fine by us, as we figured the GOGI Life Tools would not work fully if they did not work in the most difficult of situations. "Hey, kids," I said over the growing volume of voices coming from the small group of boys now seated at the picnic table. "One voice, and let it be mine for a minute." The group of 8 rowdy boys looked up towards me with anticipation as I stood sure-footed at the head of the table. They had gotten out of class and saw the entire playground calling to them. I knew I had about 5 seconds before their attention spans were stretched to the limit. Who knows how an A student sits in a classroom? Do any of you know how an A student sits in the classroom? I asked. Nearly all the kids sat up straight and put their hands folded at the top of the table. "Ah, so that's how an A student sits in school?" I asked. They nodded with big smiles on their faces. You are the boss. Right now, you all are the boss of your own brain. so cool. Each of you is using the smart part of your brain to be the boss of your own brain and be like A students. You are using Boss of My Brain as your tool without even knowing it. That is so cool. If you continue to do this good while I'm here, then I want to call the principal out here and show her that each of you can act like an A student when you use Boss of My Brain. They smiled and kept their A student position as if yearning for more compliments. Okay, let's see how you do with the next tool. Follow me, I said, and I walked over to the side of the school building with my little crew following in eager anticipation, as if I was handing out candy or some other reward for their inevitable accomplishment. Belly breathing. That's our next tool. When you use belly breathing, you are getting oxygen to your brain, which makes your decisions smarter. Without oxygen to your brain, you do not make your smartest decision. Who here has made smart decisions, I asked. All the hands went up. And who here has made some pretty dumb decisions? All hands went up. Well, if you were using your tool belly breathing, there is no way you would have made dumb decisions because belly breathing gets oxygen to your brain. What did I say about oxygen to your brain? I asked, hoping at least one of them was listening. It makes us smarter, one belted out. Exactly, I replied. Run the fence line. Okay, we're going to practice the tool of belly breathing. See that fence down there? I pointed to the fence about 50 feet away. We are going to run to the end of that fence and back. On your mark, get set, go! The kids took off like bolts of lightning, returning back as quickly as their middle school feet could get them there. Gathering around me like little baby chicks, they waited for my next morsel of whatever it was that was making them feel pretty good about themselves. Put one hand on your belly, put one hand on your chest. Which one is moving? Your belly or your chest, I asked. Belly, they replied almost in unison. Great. Now is the time to make your decisions. Your belly is moving. You are using your tool belly breathing. That is when you want to make your decisions, when your belly is moving in and out. That is belly breathing, and that is when you make your best decisions. Tell me a good decision you can make right now. I'm going to run faster next time, one said. I'm going to sit like an A student, said another. I won't yell at my brother, said a third. Great decisions, I replied. You are all being the boss, and now you are making the smartest decisions because you are getting oxygen to your brain. Great work. Let's do it again, one of the boys added. The boys eagerly complied and ran back and forth, automatically placing one hand on their chest and the other on their belly upon return. Look at my belly is moving, one exclaimed. Mine too, another chimed in. I walked away, and sure enough, the little crew was hot on my heels, excited that they were learning how powerful they were and how good they were at these things called the GOGI Life Tools. Next, we need to test your ability to flip your 5-second light switch. Do you want to see if you can do this tool too? Their responses were unanimous. After listening to the key words of the tool and how they can flip the switch and move to a positive action, we were ready. We staged 3 scenarios which the boys could relate. One was mouthing off to a teacher, one was a bully on the yard, the other was not listening at home. The boys created an improvised skit for each scenario. The rambunctious student. The first skit portrayed a situation which the boys were obviously familiar. One boy played the teacher and the other played the rambunctious student. The teacher in the skit asked the boy to sit down and the boy was going to mouth off. Instead, he flipped the switch and made a more positive choice. It took multiple tries, but after several minutes of nervous laughter, the skit was complete and the scenario was played out to a positive outcome. The 2 boys in the skit received a round of applause. Bully on the yard. Next up was the bully on the yard scenario, which thankfully went a bit smoother and was taken a little bit more seriously than the first skit. In this scenario, the kid who had learned the GOGI Life Tool stops another kid from causing a fight. At the end of the skit, they shook hands and agreed to be friends. Another round of applause. Mother at home. Finally, the mother at home skit. None of the boys wanted to play the mother, so they assigned me to play that role. In this skit, the mother was late for work and asked for help from her children. The children wanted to complain, but the oldest son flipped the switch and chose to do a positive action instead. He encouraged his siblings to help their mother, who smiled as she left for work. That skit earned its fair share of applause as well. You boys are excellent at these GOGI Life Tools. You know you have boss in my brain. You can always use belly breathing, and to top it off, you can flip your 5-second light switch anytime you're being pushed to the edge. I said this as a brief recap of our time together as it was coming to a close. We need to tell our friends, one boy blurted out. This was confirmation to me of the beauty of the GOGI Life Tools. Once learned, I have yet to meet a single person who wants to keep the tools to themselves. People, even little middle schoolers, want to share their GOGI Life Tools. After a brief recap, it didn't take too long to seek out and gain permission from the principal to bring the boys into one of the classrooms to have them report on their experience with GOGI. GOGI Life Tools. Other than the occasional nudge in the right direction, I let the boys share their tools with their peers. The kids laughed, the teacher laughed, and I marveled at how these little outcast and perceived problem children could be so driven to share their tools with their peers. I asked the classroom of kids how many of them believed they were their own boss, and they all raised their hands. I congratulated the GOGI boys and encouraged all the students to remember they are always the boss. End of our day in Compton. With that, my day at the Compton Middle School ended. There would not likely be a miracle that created A students out of the 2-hour GOGI workshop, but there was a spark. Change, lasting change, takes practice, positive reinforcement, and repetition. What was obvious in the young students was the hunger for a simple, positive decision-making tool among those who once were perceived to be the most difficult. Tools of the body. Tools of the body are ideal for 8-year-old children and the 8-year-old child in all of us, that part of us that often fails to remember our power, our innate right, and our responsibility to direct our lives to our greatest satisfaction. Please know you are not limited by your past. You are only limited by how much power you give it. You know, I do remember that day in Compton like it was yesterday. And why? Because it was so profound. I mean, I don't put it in the book, but one of the boys, his name was Delvante, he said, Coach, when I go to prison, I'm going to... And I was struck by the fact that where he was from, most of the young men end up going to prison. It's almost like a rite of passage of sorts. And I said, well, why don't we have you go to college instead of prison? And it was the first time he probably ever heard the word college. When we are given these tools, we have the ability to see beyond the confines of whatever environment we're in. And then, armed with these tools, we can begin to empower others to see beyond their own confines. That's what I love about the GOGI Life Tools so much. You know, I've been at this since 2002. As I speak right now, it's 2025. That's a long time, and I've never, ever given up because the GOGI Life Tools work. Well, we're at Chapter 4. It's titled Boss of My Brain, and I'm reading and commenting from the GOGI mini book. Boss of My Brain is part of the set of tools called Tools of the Body. This was the first tool created by students of GOGI as they explored ways to make certain they remained on track with the kind of life they wanted. By identifying the smart part, the emotional part, and the old habit part, you can simplify the process of controlling how your brain operates. When you use this tool frequently enough, you will begin to experience the power that comes with practice. Boss of My Brain solves the problem of not being taught by example or education that you and only you are the owner of the business of your brain. No one else is living your exact life. With Boss of My Brain, you can run the business of your life similar to how a good boss runs a good company. The truth of the matter is, you are the boss of everything that goes on in your mind. And with this tool, you are provided the ability to understand how simple mastery can be. With Boss of My Brain, we break down the complex function of the brain into very simplistic components. To use Boss of My Brain, you need to understand the 3 parts of the brain. The smart part of your brain is behind your forehead. You have the emotional part at the very center of your brain. You have an old habit part at the very back of the brain where your neck and head meet. We often let our emotional part and our old habit part dictate our lives. We get emotional and react in an old habit manner. Sometimes we fail to use the smart part of our brain to make sense of our emotions and our old habits. When we focus on the smart part of our brain, we realize that the power we gave up in the past is power we can take back today. Using Boss of My Brain allows you to decide which part of your brain you want to have control, the smart part, emotional part, or the old habit part. After all, you are the boss. You only have 3 parts of your brain that need your management, and the tools of Boss of My Brain gives you control over all 3. You can think intelligently, think emotionally, or think from a series of old habits. You are the boss. Even if you've not been a good boss in the past, you can be a good boss now. No one is the boss of your brain but you. If you want to manage your mind more effectively, then Boss of My Brain is the tool you can use. The truth is, you have a brain that is yours, and yours alone. It is exclusively your brain and operates under your instruction or lack thereof. No one can control your brain unless you give them permission, or you leave your brain so unattended or drug impaired that others can walk right into your thought process and fill your brain with garbage. Still, even if you give your brain over to someone or something else, it is your brain. You have the brain and you are the boss, even if you choose to be a lazy boss. A good boss is attentive. In any business, being a good boss means you are attentive. You want top performance, and you know how to care for the company's goals and objectives. When you use your GOGI Life Tool and claim ownership by using Boss of My Brain, you are declaring that no one, no situation, and no circumstance has control over your ability to control your brain. You can be told to stand in a line, but you can't be told what to think while standing there. You and only you are the boss of every thought you create. That being said, to be the best boss, we simplified the process with the use of the GOGI Life Tools Boss of My Brain. We have found that individuals who often suffer from depression, sadness, hopelessness, even rage and anger appreciate this GOGI Life Tool. This is because in some instances, for the very first time, they realize they are in control no matter how out of control their brain seems. This tool gives you enough power to grab control of your thinking and create new possibilities. No matter how fried or fermented you believe your brain to be, there are always new, fresh, clean, and ready brain cells being created inside your brain, just waiting for your instructions. It's never too late to use Boss of My Brain to take control of your life. Here's a little thought. If you knew, truly knew, you were the boss of your own brain, how different might your decisions be? You are the boss of all that goes on in your mind, for better or for worse. No one but you can run the company called you. Here's a little bit about the logistics of Boss of My Brain. The 3 parts: smart part, emotional part, old habit part. The keywords: which part is the boss right now? To effectively use Boss of My Brain, remember, there are only 3 parts of your brain. Smart part is in the front. Emotional part is in the middle. The old habit part is in the back. To use Boss of Your Brain, simply ask yourself, which part of my brain is in charge right now? When you ask yourself this question, that's when you're using Boss of My Brain. If you do nothing more, if you do not read anything further, if you learn nothing more than this tool, your life can change for the better. You are the boss. No one can make you mad or make you act any certain way. You can choose to let someone make you mad, but no one can do that for you. No one can control your brain unless you give them permission to be the boss. Let me read again the list of the GOGI Life Tools. Boss of My Brain, belly breathing, 5-second light switch. Positive thoughts, positive words, positive actions. Claim responsibility, let go, forgive. What if? Reality check, and ultimate freedom. Next up, we're going to be reading Chapter 5 of the GOGI mini book, called Belly Breathing. This is Chapter 5 in the GOGI mini book, and the title of the chapter is Belly Breathing. I'll be adding commentary throughout the chapter, so it's not really a straight reading of the book, but please indulge me. I think it'll be interesting. Belly breathing is part of the set of tools called Tools of the Body. To use belly breathing, simply put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Notice which one moves the most. If you are belly breathing, your belly will move as you inhale and exhale. Your body is designed so oxygen is transported through your blood to every part of your body. If you observe people, you will notice that many people breathe with shallow breath. You will see their chest move up and down. You likely won't see their belly moving in and out with every breath. Belly breathing is a tool you can use to return to your optimal breath. Even if a majority of other individuals don't breathe properly, that does not make it right. Most people forgot how to breathe early in their lives and consequently are quick to anger, not as smart with decisions as they could be, and are less healthy than they could be if they practiced the GOGI Life tool, belly breathing. Here's an interesting fact. It's nearly impossible to be in rage or out of control with anger and use the GOGI Life tool, belly breathing, at the same time. If you want to learn to be peaceful inside and react to stressful situations in a calm manner, belly breathing may be a powerful tool for you. If you were to watch a baby breathe, it would seem as if their entire body was involved in the breathing process. In truth, that's how we humans are designed to breathe, with our entire bodies. When we are breathing in a relaxed manner, our entire body is benefiting from oxygen getting to every bit of our bloodstream. The problem is, quite early on, we unlearn our breathing. If you walk down any sidewalk or an aisle of a grocery store, you will see that many individuals have their hands balled up almost into fists. And if you watch their breathing, you will not see their stomach area moving in and out. Rather, you will see their chest move when they breathe. These individuals are not optimally getting oxygen into their bodies. No more fight or flight. When we do not get oxygen into our bodies, we are often in or getting into a fight or flight way of thinking. We often anger more quickly, are short-tempered, don't think clearly, and are reactionary. Breathing with the entire body is one of the most powerful ways to calm the body and mind. It is the finest way to diffuse a fight as well as rationally control thoughts of anger or rage. Use of the belly breathing tool is a powerful sign of self-control, self-awareness, and maturity. The students of GOGI who tend to rely on belly breathing as their go-to tool are often those who claim to be reactionary, defensive, argumentative, opinionated, or stubborn. They report that the GOGI Life Tool belly breathing has kept them from flying off the handle or overreacting or making a mistake they would later regret. Belly breathing is designed to get you into the habit of breathing like your body was meant to breathe. Remember, it's never too late for change. You still have a lot of breathing left to do. Breathe like the Shaolin. One of the most famous temples in China is the Shaolin Monastery, where monks train in the art of breathing. Through mastery of breath, they learn to endure and ultimately conquer internal as well as external enemies. The Shaolin monks understand that without control of the breath, there is little control over anything else. Using your tool belly breathing, you can endure and eventually conquer the inevitable challenges in your life. You can be like the Shaolin when you master belly breathing. Here's some basic facts about the belly breathing tool. Belly breathing, one hand on my chest, one hand on my belly. Which one is moving? To use belly breathing to break old habits and move more powerfully into your future, put one hand on your chest, put one hand on your belly. Which hand is moving? If the hand on your chest is moving, you are not using the tool belly breathing. You are chest breathing, if only your chest moves, which is the least effective and most destructive form of breathing. If the hand on your belly is moving in and out with every breath, you are belly breathing. If this is not easy for you, try this approach. Place your feet firmly on the ground. Now focus on your feet. Imagine that as you breathe, your job is to get the air all the way to your feet. While belly breathing sounds simple, nothing is more powerful than taking charge of how your body uses its oxygen. There is strength in simplicity. Belly breathing has been a tool that I've watched so many GOGI students use to overcome all sorts of problems. I can't tell you how many fights it has stopped. I can't tell you how many relationships it's mended. I can't even begin to share to you the life-changing impact this tool has had on probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives. It's amazing that when we have the simple act of breathing with every cell of our body, the cells of our body know what to do. We are intuitive beings. We understand what is right and wrong. We know this. And through the tool belly breathing, we are empowered to remember. Let's read Chapter 6 of the mini book. This is 5-Second Light Switch, including a few bits of commentary from me along the way. Chapter 6, 5-Second Light Switch. 5-Second Light Switch is part of the set of tools called Tools of the Body, and was created when a group of students of GOGI wanted to find a way to get their actions to be less reactive and less automatic. Wanting to find a way to stop decisions that were lightning fast and seemed out of control, they created the concept to flip the switch and redirect any thought to a positive action within 5 seconds. When you have a positive action already picked out, it's easier to flip the switch when a negative thought arises. When you have a 5-second light switch tool ready, you can make sure you don't make the same mistakes of the past. Flip the switch and you can shine the light to where you are directing your life to go, and go in that direction with confidence. Stopping a negative thought or stopping an urge sometimes feels impossible. 5-second light switch is a great tool to help overcome this obstacle. 5-second light switch works like this. When you get consumed with that thought, instead of trying to get the thought to stop, you simply flip your 5-second light switch and you replace that old thought with your new action. 5-second light switch allows you to notice the thought but not act on it. With the GOGI Life Tool 5-second light switch, you swap the old thought to a new action within 5 seconds. Count the kids. Coach Terry is a GOGI girl who lived in the GOGI campus module at the Los Angeles County Jail. When she learned 5-second light switch, she modified it to work for her. She said that when a negative thought entered her mind, she realized that the old thought no longer served her. She then replaced that old thought with her version of 5-second light switch. She would hold up her hand and name her children and grandchildren on her fingers. Counting her children and grandchildren was her new action. She gets to that action of counting her grandchildren and her children. This gives her the 5 seconds to swap an unproductive thought with a positive action. When a smoker is told, just don't think about smoking a cigarette, it seems like all they can think about is a cigarette. The human mind does not work well with negatives. It seems as if our mind will go to that do not as quickly as if you said go for it. As you train your mind to create positive thoughts and actions, it may be impossible to think that you could simply stop thinking about something which consumed your thoughts for a long time. That is why the GOGI Life Tool 5-second light switch works. It realizes that your mind has been trained to head down a particular road almost like it's on autopilot. 5-second light switch permits you to consider the old thought and then replace that thought with a new action that is more positive and productive. The key is yours. 5-second light switch is widely considered the favorite tool of our most impulsive students of GOGI and those who claim that sometimes things happen before they even realize they had the thought. The key is to have your replacement action ready. The tool 5-second light switch was named in the chapel-gym combination at the U.S. federal prison at Terminal Island in California when a program format was offered to attempt to describe the brain's neural pathways to a group of inmates. To illustrate that their actions were controllable, the group used the overhead lights in the chapel as an example. Discussions of turning on the lights, which weren't desired, and leaving the undesired lights off helped get the point across. You can think of your brain like a series of overhead lights. You get to choose which thoughts you switch on and which ones you ignore. This tool can help you build new neural pathways and shine the light in the direction you want to go. The more you associate any light going on or off by flipping the switch, the easier it will be for you to flip the switch in your own mind and use your 5-second light switch. Light switches go on and off all day, every day. So can your 5-second light switch. Sometimes change feels impossible or short-lived. In these instances, 5-second light switch comes in handy. With this tool, we don't focus on forever or even tomorrow. We simply focus on this exact minute and we flip the switch to the new action. The 5-second light tool was actually a relief for a lot of individuals, especially those suffering from addiction, because addictions are compelling in that they grab hold of you, almost every cell of your body, and they yank you in the direction they want you to go. 5-second light switch just allows you to kind of put a wedge in between the thought and the action, allowing you to move forward in the direction you want to go in. Incidentally, Terry, when she was released from jail for the umpteenth time, heroin is a terrible addiction. Well, she was released and she got a job at a Christian school in the preschool, pre-kindergarten, serving the lunches for the students. During the day, she would have terrible thoughts of just stepping just a few blocks away under the bridge where she used to live so that she could get high just once. But she never did that. She never succumb to that because she had her 5-second light switch. I know it'll work for you too. I know it.